Welcome to Takeaways, Life Lessons Learned. All right, my guest today is none other than Brian Sorrentino, official title director at ROI Commercial Real Estate. So you're a commercial real estate broker. You specialize in retail real estate with a focus on the Las Vegas resort corridor, experiential retail, entertainment-driven destinations, and traditional retail projects. We're going to talk about more later on, like what are those what are those things? Are they just buzzwords, or do
Yes.
those terms have meanings?
And yes, a lot of buzz though.
Yeah. Over the course of your career, you've been involved with a range of high-profile retail, restaurant, and mixed-use developments. I'm going to ask you about some of those. But for example, tease out some of the either projects or brands that you work with so people get a sense of what you do.
Sure. Brands we work with, who are working on, I work with Andretti Karting. That would be a little bit more of a known, prominent brand. I work with a lot of non-known brands right now, to be known, creatives that are doing things for film and TV and branching out into the brick and mortar world. We work with Ryman Entertainment that did Old Red. They're working on Category 10 now. Evening Entertainment Group, Cameron Mitchell Restaurants. So real large format, prominent, high volume types of businesses. Truckyard, where I'm working on, which is a entertainment based, very experiential, large format restaurant. They're out of Dallas, Texas. We're doing national work for them. So those are some of the types of groups that we work with.
Awesome. You serve as a board member of the Las Vegas Rotary Club Foundation, and you've held leadership roles within the commercial real estate industry, including president of Southern Nevada CCIM chapter, president of Retail Brokers Network, and a former ICSC Alliance state co-chair.
Yes, all true.
So ICSC was just here in Las Vegas this week. For those listening who might not know, what is ICSC and what is this big convention that comes to town every year?
On it, I cannot remember for the life of me. They rebranded the name, and I don't know what the hell it means. It means nothing to me.
International Center,
it
Council
was
of Shopping Centers. It's something shopping centers.
It was the International Council of Shopping Centers convention. And then during I guess that got controversial for some reason, or canceled that name, or they were trying to rebrand themselves, and now it's like Centers for whatever it means. But it's commercial real estate retail. It's the largest version of that in the world. Comes here. My voice is shot because I've been talking for the last 4 days and on the convention floor, and then going out at night and entertaining and all that stuff. So apologies. It's overwhelming. 30,000 or so or extroverts running around, telling stories, getting together, seeing old friends and stuff like that. So that's really cool. But a lot, like any national tenant, is going to be there on the floor in some capacity. Like some of my meetings were with Sprouts or California Fish Grill, or I'm just trying to think of some of the clients that I had in town that were super active on this one. But like Dan had Target, and it's all those types of people. And you get together, it's all of the players involved. So lenders are there, title is there. Like a lot of attorneys will go. And in the old days, that was really the only time to get FaceTime together. And you get all the people and the decision makers in the same spot. If you're stuck on something, you can get it pushed through. And we had some of that during this meeting. Now it's a little bit, with Zoom and access and everything like that, there's a lot of people that have pushed back on it. Some people are backing out of the conference and staying in town and come meet me at the hotel out of Cabana and stuff like that. So there's that too, which makes it very bifurcated and hard to schedule. But it's good. It still is good. Every year I swear I'm not going back next year, but every time I finish, I'm like, God, that was really valuable. And I understand why I go every year, but it's a lot, and it's a lot being here. We have people from literally all over the planet coming in, and now it's in our hometown, and why don't we do a tour while we're there? And oh, by the way, there's all of these other things that we need to take care of when we're there, and can you entertain us, and where we're going? So the chatter, the noise, the demand on us locally is really difficult. And like Isabella, my daughter and team partner, is touring again today. She had a full day tour yesterday and another day tour, and it's just really hard when you're stacking and stacking and stacking. So there's the reason for my voice, and tired a little bit, not as chippy as I normally am. So see how that goes.
I remember the first ICSE, it might have been the second that I attended. I called you. I'm like, how do I do this? Because the Las Vegas Convention Center, 3 halls are full of booths and exhibits and
Yeah.
people. And this is what I don't remember if you remember this conversation, but I called him like, how do I do ICSE? What happens there? How do I make use of this conference? And you said, schedule your meetings in advance. You schedule them in 15-minute increments. And it's different in the sense that people are here to do deals. And so literally you're meeting people, and everyone's frame of mind is, if you're a tenant, you're looking for sites. So owners are there or brokers are there representing properties, showing them to tenants, like you said, the decision makers of you name it.
Okay.
Pizza Hut, Dutch Brothers, you mentioned Sprouts, California Pizza Kitchen. They're all here, and they're actually looking, and they're looking to do deals. So that's how you described it all those years ago. When I think about ICSE, I think about Brian Sorrentino.
Thank you.
You should know that.
Top tip for anybody that is getting in. Those were actually, I guess I sounded okay there. I would stand by that today. Somebody else that was trying, Dave Strickland actually attended his ICSC the first time, and he looked like I ran into him. It was a deer in the headlights, and he's like, I don't even know where to be. I'm like, come tomorrow. It's the last day.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, all the booths have to be open. You can talk to anyone you want, and there's no lines, because everybody tries to knock out all the business in one day if they can. So it's lines deep. And if you don't have an appointment at a booth, it's lines deep. You're never going to get to the people that you want to talk to anyway. But on the next day, you can have a conversation, a long one, because people are just sitting around. They have to stay till 3:00. So people are hanging out in the booths just looking for anybody to talk to. So I ran into him yesterday because I actually did have a couple meetings yesterday.
So Dave Strickland is a CCIM. I'm a CCIM. You are also a CCIM. CCIM is a designation in our industry. You've been a designee since April 20th of 2010. And the reason I know that is because that's the same date on my plaque. You and I tested together in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Yes, we did. That was a lot of fun. Quite an experience. And there's been multiple pivotal things that have happened in my career. That was a big one. Getting that designation, getting involved in leadership in CCIM locally, and opening up so many new avenues to people I had no idea who I was, and getting to work together, becoming friends with all these people, and just having resource after resource after resource come to me through CCIM. And then let alone the education and everything that brought with it too.
Yeah, I would say the same. It was a transformative part of my career.
Yep. Highly recommended for anybody thinking about it.
Definitely. To me, it's funny, like when I was going through the process of getting it, there were some, I would say, I don't want to say old timers, but like more established professionals in our industry that would talk about it as like this point of arrival. Like, you've got your CCIM now.
Yeah.
And I always thought about it as table stakes. Like, if you want to be a professional in our industry at a certain level, this is the barrier of entry. You have to get this to be able to speak that way and have that perspective and all that knowledge. That's how I framed it for myself.
And it's always a pleasure seeing that after somebody's name when you're going into a deal, if you've never worked with that person the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're starting from a much more advanced position in a negotiation, and you can just usually cut to the chase pretty quick.
Yeah, you're speaking the same language.
And figure if it's a deal or no deal, or what our challenge is going to be, versus educating someone on a position and all the other stuff. Yeah.
Continuing with the bio, prior to real estate, you were a Burger King and Houlihan's restaurant franchisee. So I knew about Houlihan's, which was like a wasn't fast casual. It was like a
Go ahead.
it was a
Just
bar.
wreck it. Go ahead. Just say what you think it is because everyone else thinks the same. I'll correct
I
it.
thought it was like a
Go ahead.
not fast casual is not the right term.
Casual
but
dining.
like casual dining.
Yeah.
Bar kind of a place.
Go ahead and tell me who you would. Who's a similar concept? What would be a?
So like Applebee's and Denny's, not Denny's. TGI Fridays come to mind, but I would put Houlihan's like a grade up.
Yeah.
How'd I do?
That's a normal answer.
Okay.
And we never got credit for what we did, and that's probably why the brand isn't doing what it should be doing anymore. But no, we had a 400 item scratch kitchen, 70 employees. And yes, we had a big bar business too. Our bar sales were high, over 20%, 20 to 25%. I think industry standard is about 6. So, but man, our production in the back of house was massive. And just to have, I became a very good restaurateur at Houlihan's when Houlihan's was going into the tank and we really had to figure out stuff. That was at the end. Burger King got me to Nevada in 1976 when I was 8 years old. I was an East Coast kid born in New York, lived in Hollywood, Florida, and got transplanted to Reno, Nevada, which is not at all the same as Hollywood, Florida. And my parents spent every last dollar on getting into the business, so there was no babysitters, there was nothing. We were working in the stores at 8 years old, and my brother at 11, and literally grew up. I am an amazing Burger King employee. I would take place of 6 and 7 employees. Same with my brother. Incredible. We ran a restaurant, one of the busiest snowstorms when they opened an interstate in our store in Truckee, California. After it had snowed for 13 feet for 3 days over New Year's Eve. There was actually 4 of us. It was 4 of us running the entire building when we were the only restaurant open when the highway opened up, and people were on the highway for almost 3 days, and everybody came into our restaurant, and we held it down for a whole night. It was insane. That was one of the most crazy experiences of my life. But yeah, that was, and we got out to get into Houlihan's. God, I was so young. I was a franchisee at 23. Got out of Burger King ownership, and the reason we didn't stay in Burger King ownership is my parents, and there was 4 kids. My parents and their partners, my aunt and uncle, and my 2 cousins, and we all kind of grew up in the same story. And we were supposed to take over the family business. We all got out of college. I was going to stay in San Jose, where I went to school at San Jose State. I was dating my wife, Nicole. She was expecting me to stay in San Jose in the Bay Area. There was a recession at the time. Job market kind of sucked. The job I wanted, I wasn't really paying what I thought it would be. And I started getting FOMO that, oh man, my brother and my 2 cousins are going to get, how many restaurants are at the time? 35 restaurants in Northern Nevada, Oregon, and some Northern California. And I thought, man, I'm the one that's going to miss out. So I moved back. Nicole and I broke up for a day. And then she decided, all right, I'll give it a shot. We wound up getting married. We got Truckee. We were going to develop the Tahoe Basin, and Tahoe did a moratorium on drive-thrus because they're bad for the lake, for pollution. So we're like, well, I guess we're not doing that. And we looked at buying other markets. We both had I think my brother just had my nephew at the time, and my sister-in-law. But we're like, what are we going to do? We can't survive on one Burger King with 2 families. And we wound up selling it and becoming casual dining was the craze. This is late early mid-90s, 93-ish, 94. And we were looking at different brands. We had our parents backing. So the 4 kids were going to run this thing. We had our investor parents putting us up. And we got the franchise for Houlihan's, which their AUVs were super strong at the time. It was a real fun concept.
What's an AUV?
Average unit volume, sorry. Average unit volumes of Houlihan's back in the 90s was a little over 4 million. They were run pretty well. It was Gilbert Robinson's restaurants before they imploded, which is the back end of that story. But we got the market of Reno, which was a one of one, and I said, "What about the whole state?" Because I wanted to get the heck out of Dodge. I wanted out of Reno. There was some stuff going on in Reno that was very small minded. Reno is the biggest little city in the world. The leadership in the city, I went to school with all the families. Reno High is still a big deal in Reno, and I was there. It's the most desired. It's got a cult following for a public high school. It's actually really cool. Reno High, I think it was established in like 1848. And it's like everybody kind of lives around Reno High. Nobody wanted any outsiders in. And everybody wanted people to continue to gamble at their hotels and casinos. And nobody was willing to change anything. And it was all about the gambling. That was it. You get people in, you have them gamble. And Vegas was going through a bunch of changes and getting to more entertainment. And Reno and Vegas were about the same size back then, which was crazy. And then they weren't. So metropolitan area Reno Sparks right now, I think it's 475,000. Maybe I'm wrong there. And we're 2.5 million, right? So dramatically changed. There was two things that that made me want to leave. One of which was one of our Burger Kings was right across from the Reno Sparks Convention Center. And the busiest days that we had was the busiest convention, which was the Outdoor Lifestyles Convention. And it came up for a renewal, and the Reno Sparks Convention Center got lobbied from all the casino owners saying, do not renew that convention. Why? Well, these people, they come and they just stay in our hotel rooms and they don't gamble. We don't want those people here. So Salt Lake did, and it's been in Salt Lake ever since. And I'm like, mind blown. Like, you guys can't figure this out? Right around the same time, Steve Wynn decided he was going to come into Reno and build a hotel casino. Literally got chased out of town with pitchforks and burning clubs. It was crazy. Like, he was, Dr. Frankenstein and the monster that they were bringing to Vegas, not in our Reno. And I'm like, I gotta go. So when we had the opportunity to get the Houlihan's franchisees, I threw my hand up and said, it's all the state. And so we got all the state. And we came down here. And so we opened Reno successfully. And then my brother and I came down. My brother George, you asked me about my brother George. My brother George and I came down with our families, with Nicole and Val, and kids in tow. And we opened up Houlihan's here on Lake Mead and Rainbow, which is now Famous Dave's. And it was good, and then it wasn't. The CEO of Houlihan's, a guy named Fred Hipp, was really a brilliant restaurateur. Brought the company out of bankruptcy, had everything kind of humming, and California Pizza Kitchen made him a big offer, and he left. And so they were looking for a CEO. There was a guy named Dan Scoggins. I don't know if he's still alive, but he was the one that bought TGI Fridays when there were 6 units and brought them to like 400 and whatever. And was in retirement. He got bought out, and he's like, "I'll take that, and I'll buy the whole company." And he did, and he wrecked it himself. Got rid of a lot of the scratch items that we had. Went to commissary kitchen stuff, rebranded. The menus got new, the new logos, and everything that made Houlihan special. And we had, and it just became normal, like everything else. It was just really homogenized. And we lost customer after customer. So that was one part of it. Then he got bored. He could, because he realized sales were going in the tank, and so he sold it. And we had another CEO. So that was 3 CEOs. We went through 5 CEOs in 5 years. Not a good thing for leadership. And everybody had their own changes, and we had to follow along. Finally, we stopped. We're just like, no, we're going back to old recipes, and we're going to do our own thing. And we were hanging on. My partners in Reno were kind of done. And they're like, hey, we give up. We don't want to do this anymore. My cousins were like, okay. So we had really good real estate in Reno, in Kitski and McCarran, if anybody knows what that is. It's now like a Five Guys burger, and I think a Chipotle, a dentist, and something else. But the restaurants were big, like 8,000 feet, patios and stuff. So big, huge kitchens and all the things. So we sold our land and building there, and then kept here open. So George and I were going to figure it out. And then like Boca Park opened, and we were more elevated. So we were kind of a special event place. People would go and get dressed up. Like we had Joe's Crab Shack next door, and people would walk in shorts and t-shirts, and they'd come over to check us out. And they're like, "Oh, it's too nice in here." And then they leave. Like, "No, we'll serve you. We're happy to." Right. But so we ultimately wound up a little bit in the wrong area. But I skipped something there. So with Houlihan's, you had asked me, I'll delve into how I got to know my partner, Dan Adamson. So my uncle and I were looking for real estate in Las Vegas. We didn't know who to work with. I didn't know anything about really site selection, other than we were doing site selection as, when I was 8 years old, I was counting cars before there was car counters. We were looking at pylon signs from down the road, what could be seen, who's got ingress and egress. Can you get into that restaurant? Can you get out of that restaurant? Is there a signal? It's just
You would go and
embedded.
sit in the parking lot and actually
Count cars.
do this yourself.
Yeah. Well, we had to. Like there was nothing else. So we were trying to do site
And
selection.
what do you do now?
There's millions of data points. I still do the same things. I mean, I know I have all that embedded in. So I look for all of the problems before anything, because I've literally done it since I'm a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
You have a client that loves that site, and you're like, nah, I don't like it. Here's what's wrong with the site. You do whatever you want, but here's what I see.
Right.
So just be aware of this, and you're going to have to mitigate these things. So it could be, it could be co-tenancy. It could be, all the matrix show, but maybe you're on the wrong side of the street, and, you're like with a coffee shop, you're going to work, not going home, all that kind of stuff. Same with C-stores. And so all that stuff I was doing literally as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Brian, let's get in the car. We're going to go count cars on this intersection. We're going to go see whatever. Different times a day, doing, just side drives at night, drives in the morning. Was there a breakfast crowd? All that stuff. We were doing that. There's, so yes. The Burger King franchisee here in Vegas in 1990, this is going 1996, I think. We were looking, used a young broker that was really talented. His name was Dan Adamson. So you should use him. So we did. And our landlord was Erwin Molaski and Hank Gordon. And sitting in a meeting with those two, I'm 20. How was I? 27. And I'm negotiating against these two guys. I'm like, I'm looking at Dan, and Dan's like, oh yeah, you guys are good. Just go for it. And that's kind of Dan will tee it up and let you guys figure it out. He's really good at that. And I think it's a good negotiation strategy. He's not going to, put his nose in where he's like, I'm not going to be able to help here. You guys, do what you got to do. And then we wound up making the deal. And then when we moved, Dan was always really gracious. And a lot of people say, oh yeah, give me a call. And Dan was serious and opened his life up to us. It was really special. We were just a client, but he was really, he and Cammie, his wife, were really, really great with us. We wound up buying a house a couple blocks away from him. He said, you play tennis? By tennis, we play over at TPC. You should join that team. We were on tennis teams forever together, traveled together. He was really great in business as well, inviting me to every meeting. I didn't know anything. I'm a pretty bright guy, but I didn't know this side of the business. That was after, I jumped around a minute. So we had the restaurant. What ended the restaurant and the restaurant business was the death knell, besides everything I told you, is Rainbow was going under an 18-month construction to widen Rainbow. We were down 10% the first month of the construction, 20% the second month of the construction, 30% the third month of the construction.
Wow.
Found out there was another 15 months we had to put up with. And a few of those weeks, Rainbow was going to be closed. with no access to our building. And we weren't, after everything that happened with Houlihan's and all, we were just the headwinds and headwinds and headwinds. And then finally it got to that point, and my brother and I are looking at each other going, man, we're not going to make it. Let's. And so I called Dan and said, hey, do you have a minute to talk? Their office is right up the street from us. And I said, hey, we got to close. He's like, you got to be kidding me. And I said, we got to close. And he goes, what are you going to do? I go, I don't know. First of all, call these people. So I gave him a list of people to call. And he's like, well, why would you want me to do that? I'm going to charge you a commission. Why don't you just call them yourself? You can cut a deal. This is a good list. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. And we're happy to pay you. So just make these calls. So we got it under contract in 30 days with Famous Dave's. That was my number one on the list. I knew that they were looking to expand. Barbecue was a missing concept in that trade area. There was all kinds of catering options. And I did so much homework. We were going to rebrand. We were going to do all these other things. And my brother and I, at the end of the day, looked at each other and we looked at our young families who weren't spending any time. We were killing ourselves. And said, don't have it in us to not make it. If we lose everything on a second run, and we had our own concepts, we had concept X, we could have and probably would have been successful in retrospect.
But the cost of that is not something you're willing to pay.
The risk was so high. And
I say cost, like when you said like you and your brother looked at each other, and the cost is really time away from your family. You're going to now rebrand your own concept, double down, triple down, or find Famous Dave's, they take over, you guys go on to the next thing.
And do a reboot.
Yep. Okay. Let's round out the bio real quick. You mentioned you went to Reno High School, San Jose State University. What was your degree in?
Advertising, marketing minor. I wasn't going to, I was business and I had a bad economic class, and I'm like, or it was accounting, and I just didn't want to take it again. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to switch it over to advertising. Advertising was fun. I've always been interested in marketing, and it was a good business at the time, and they had a really good advertising school. So I was going to give that a go. And then like the entry jobs, they're probably still really crappy. It was like a data analyst to start with at a firm. And I'm like, where do I want to live? Do I want to live in San Francisco with no money? Do I want to go to one of the big cities? If you wanted to really make it, it had to be LA, Chicago, or New York. We were in a recession at that time. It was George Bush the first. It was like when the stock market crashed in '87, and it was just kind of it was a little wobbly going on. And I'm like, and then of course the draw to not miss out on the Burger King thing. And we didn't do that. The kids didn't take over because the parents were like, oh, you're all out of school now and we're not ready to retire. And what are we going to do with all these extra bodies and mouths to feed and stuff like that? Why don't we diversify? So that's how we got involved in casual dining. And another thing we were going to do when we didn't, before we pulled the trigger, we were going to do microbreweries, and we probably would have been good at that too. We're really good restaurateurs. In spite of the fact that I don't have a restaurant anymore, I still feel like I am one. So
you mentioned, Nicole, you've been married for 33 years.
Yes.
And you're the proud parents of 2 daughters. Talk about all 3 of them.
Nicole, she's really great for me. I'm an introvert. I'll stay home all the time. You just said
you were among 30,000 extroverts at ICS.
I am not a natural extrovert.
I was going to ask you, are you an extrovert or not?
I am not.
You think introvert?
Oh, I know introvert. I'm a forced extrovert. I came from a huge family. That was one of your questions. I was always the one in the corner observing. Didn't say much. Couldn't say much. This was too much competition. This is just forced behavior on me, but it's not my comfort zone. I'm comfortable around people that I'm comfortable with, but just going out and it ain't me. I've learned how to do it, but Nicole balances me. She drags me around, and she always checks. She always thinks I'm not street smart, and I don't, and I have gaps because I am a very trusting person, and she is always looking sideways at something. There's got to be something going on here, right? And so she does. She's a good barrier for me. She makes sure that that I'm dressed, I'm fed, I'm happy, and all the things. She's a great partner for me to make sure I don't kill myself and overdo. And she definitely throws up a stop sign at me all the time and said, "All right, fix it. You're not going that direction." And she's a good gatekeeper for me. So she is the boss of the house, and I just do what she says. She's always right.
And your 2 daughters?
My 2 daughters. Isabella is my older. She has been kind of in the business unintentionally since she played club soccer, and I used to drive her around the Southwest US and have her transcribe emails for me and write down notes on voicemails and all the things in the car while we were working on a Thursday or Friday when we were trying to get to a tournament. She had never wanted to be in the business, and I got a call a month before she graduated college saying, "Do you think you can get me a job in real estate in San Diego?" When she went to USD. I could have gotten you a job in real estate in San Diego, but it's a month before graduation, and I'm sure there's not a job in real estate in San Diego for a young upcoming broker when you went to a huge real estate school, and everybody that went to that real estate school had internships and already got jobs through that real estate school. So let me see what I can do.
Such a dead answer.
Like, I wanted to kill her when she said that. Let me see what I
could have if you would have had some foresight here.
No, she was going to be either in medicine or medical sales, and then I'm like, "You're going to be traveling a lot. You're going to have to move around. There's all the things." And she's like, "No, you don't know.
You don't know anything, Dad.
I don't know anything." So she called me one day and she's like, "They want me to move to Milwaukee. I'm going to be on the road." I'm like, "Huh?" You don't have to live in Milwaukee, but you got to train in Milwaukee. You got to stay there for 2 years. And she's like, "That's too long." I'm like, "You're 22 years old. Who cares? What do you think about real estate?" I'm like, "Oh my God." So I know a lot of people in the business, and we actually did get her in the door in a couple places if she wanted to take it, but there were, I don't know, one was like a reception / helper thing, and it would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I go, "Look, man, you're going to get put on a team at some point. It may or may not be the right team. It may or may not be doing the right things. It's going to be 5 years before you figure it out. You may not even like it at that point, and you're going to burn a bunch of time. If you really want to be in the industry, we're slammed. Come intern with us for the summer." And that was 8 years ago. So that's Iz. And she's amazing, by the way. And we just keep throwing business at her, and she kills it. We don't have to worry about her. Occasionally we're like, "I don't know what I'm doing." It's like, "All right, I'll do this."
Nice.
And then she's off and running again. So she's super strong. For her age, I don't know, there's a few in the country that I would put her up against, and there's not many. She's really, really strong. Steffiana is not in the industry and will never be in the industry. She graduated UNLV business, but always wanted to go into. My sister-in-law is an advanced healing practitioner, yogi, Reiki, nutrition, and all this stuff. And my daughter really took a fascination with all that, and she knew she wanted to do that. After graduation. She's got. I'm going to botch all the certifications she has already. She's 25. She's got more than most, and she's 25. She's becoming a thing in that world. Like she's working at stations. She does sound bath bowls for hundreds of people. She's doing some cool stuff. Monetize it at some point in the future. So she's still living at home, but doesn't want to be. I'm like, wait till you make money. You're fine. You're killing yourself. You don't need to be rushed out and facing the world with a bunch of bills and stuff like that. So she's got a pretty high ceiling. So all good. We're super, super lucky. Everybody in the family's happy, healthy, thank God. And I don't know. sometimes, and you'll get there at one point where you're looking and you're like, I think everybody's going to be okay. Because when you're a parent, you ain't there. Now we're just talking about, more of adult problems, not all the other stuff that you have to deal with. And you're like, oh my God, I hope they go, they're hanging with the right pet friends and they don't get into this or that or the other. They know better and they're past that. So I think we did a good job raising them.
Awesome.
So,
well, officially welcome to Takeaways, Brian.
well, thank you.
I'm going to jump right ahead because we covered so much already. I ask everyone this question. I'm going to ask you this question. What has been the single most influential thing or event in your life that has defined or shaped you the most?
Singles hard. Couple in business would be failing. I can't tell you how many different ways I try to skin that cat. I'm a nerd and I like sci-fi. There's something from Star Trek that Captain Kirk beat a test called the Kobayashi Maru. And nobody had ever beaten it. Not Spock, nobody. Like, it was just something they put you in Starfleet Academy to see how you would handle failure. Captain Kirk passed that test. Blew everybody away.
Kobayashi
Maru.
Maru?
The Kobayashi Maru. And it wound up that he snuck in and he rigged the computer and fixed it so that it could beat the test. And he got called up on charges. And he's like, I refuse to believe that there's a no-win scenario. I kind of felt like that with our restaurant. We did so many innovative things. We were so progressive. Our corporate would come in and go, what are you guys doing? How are you doing that? From ordering to scheduling to whatever, leadership training, marketing.
This is Houlihan's?
Yeah.
How long did you have that start to finish?
The whole things, we were in Houlihan's 8 years between the two restaurants.
Okay.
But really, really good at it. It just didn't matter.
Couldn't rig the system.
Too many outside forces going in. And years later, I beat, we both did. I mean, it was like we lost a family member and we just couldn't do anything about it.
Lost in what regard?
No, like that's what closing the restaurant felt like.
I see.
How did we not figure this out?
Mm-hmm.
There had to be, and there wasn't. There just wasn't. There would have been a rebrand, but then working with chefs and stuff like that later, like Michelin star chefs, and they go out of business all the time. Restaurants are tough, like really tough.
The show The Bear.
Yeah,
there's
so true.
I can't remember what season, but it's like the end of a certain season, and the gal that goes into the restaurant with him, I don't remember all their names and whatnot, but she kind of goes through this like sort of montage of chefs where they show like all the chefs she admires basically or came across or mentored her, all their restaurants are turning over. And I don't know what they were trying to depict, but what I kind of took away is that all restaurants have a shelf life.
Yep. Life cycle.
A life cycle.
Yep.
Sorry, keep going. That came into my mind.
No, it's good. So there was also a thing where I couldn't watch, like everyone was like, oh, did you see Restaurant Impossible or whatever, all this just, I'm not watching it.
It was like
way too oh my God. I had so much PTSD. I couldn't go in a restaurant. I couldn't go in a restaurant for 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Just couldn't do it. I was still in it. And I was looking at when the server's tanking over here and the hostess oversat the room. I'm looking in the kitchen, seeing all the tickets up. I'm like, oh, And then everybody at the table was like, oh, what's taking so long with our food? I'm like, oh, you want to know why? And I was just like, boom. I was the worst dinner companion. I still don't love it. I like going out to great service experiences and things like that, but it's hard. And I know when, and everyone's trying their best and it's whatever. So I still get a little antsy going into restaurants, but I couldn't watch any shows. It was way too close to home. I knew all of this stuff. And it's all, like, a lot of them are really like The Bear is legit. That is legit. And that was one of the books, I know you like to talk about books. One of them, Will Guardia worked for a group that we work with, is Union Square Hospitality. They're out of New York City. He worked for Union Square Hospitality, and they run like Gramercy Tavern is one of their. They run all the F&B out of MoMA. But he and I forget the chef's name that he was with and still owns the restaurant is 11 Madison Park. That's the bear. He was an inspiration on the bear for 11 Madison Park. He has it's called hospitality, unreasonable hospitality. And if you want to learn about,
That's the book, right?
that's the book that he wrote. I don't know if you read it or heard of it.
I've heard about it a couple times.
It's, if you want to know about hospitality, it doesn't have to be a restaurant. It could be anything, or even what we do. It's just going so far beyond expectations. So they turned this restaurant around. It was really special, and fun, kind of really cool adjacent is Shake Shack. They would look at the park, Madison Park, outside their beautiful building, and they're like, nobody can afford our food. We're like, right? We're really, really high. They're, hundreds of dollars a head, and their experiences are 4 hours and, multiple course, all that stuff. But they wanted to feed people. And this was kind of the bear-ish too. You know how they make the Italian sandwiches on the bear? Shake Shack. Shake Shack started from 11 Madison Park across the way in a little shack because they wanted to be able to feed people too with really great everyday food.
That's funny.
That's cool. But yeah, so
that's one in business.
One in business.
A couple.
Another one in business. I'll give you both business. The other one was everybody has their recession story. I was just recovering from getting out of the restaurant business when the recession rolled in, and I was finally starting to, I think we had the Fresh and Easy account, and we had 15 payments due. We did 42 Fresh and Easies in the Valley in a year and a half. Insane. One of the craziest, funnest experiences that I've done at any time. So it's huge team. We have 2 brokers in Denver. We had a development team in Denver. We had the Fresh and Easy group. We would do bus tours every 6 weeks and present 15 sites with fully negotiated letters of intent for a year and a half. That's crazy. Like, that is crazy. And we did it. I had 15 deals that I was owed on, and nobody wanted to pay. And like, the world shut down. Every lease, everybody's got their story if you went through it, and it was not fun. And that was hard. I mean, that was, am I ever going to get a break? I've been killing myself. I was still young-ish, but I've been killing myself since college. I'm like, I don't know anybody that's working as hard as I am. I'm sure there are, but I don't know many of them. And how am I going to get through this? And like, crazy, like, whatever. Like the low point of my life in this business was having a knock on. I mean, everybody talks about it. You go knock on doors, like literally knock on every door in a shopping center. We had Deer Springs Town Center up in 5th and 215. That was supposed to be 5th Street, was going to be the super arterial. UNLV still has a campus up there they haven't built. The hotel, the stations, all that stuff. Tully Springs, 15,000 homes. They should all be occupied by now, or at least they were on track to. They're not built, right? And we had a 700,000 square foot power center and all the shop space that we were working on. And we had to lease it. And there was nobody taking that deal. So we were knocking on doors and everything. And I'm like, good God. Got deals out of it? Not there. I think we got one deal. We got a State Farm office to move in there. But I moved a spa company, like a dog wash. And the phones were not ringing for years. And none of our nationals were doing deals. We were so toxic. So that was really a gut check. And then, are we going to move? Where am I going to move to? Is this the wrong industry? All this stuff. And it was so that, but that also.
What do you think got you through?
The next day mentality.
Say more about that.
Sometimes you just have to get through the day. Like, I remember one day I was not okay because I had 2 kids in Catholic school, and we had mortgage, stuff, life. How the hell? And I'm making not. Nicole went back to work. She was selling real estate. Thank God. She wound up opening a business. She a second or a consignment store, high-end consignment store. I mean, those things got us because I like whatever my income was, it just wasn't much at all. And every day was like, I don't know how we're going to X. I don't know how we're gonna it was tough for me. I mean, I know people struggle, and I think we have a pretty good life in this industry if we've made it this far. I feel lucky all the time, and I always have to check myself what I'm complaining about. But that was kind of real stuff, and I think it's some of the stuff that people deal with on a regular basis.
And this industry is nice when it's nice. When it's not nice,
when it's not nice, it's bad. I mean, and there was
a lot of darkness, a lot of questions, a lot of
questions,
concern.
And then we were getting killed every day. Like I was getting called, and I was, whether it was threats of a lawsuit for misrepresentation, and like I got files of information supporting my case, and here's a letter from my attorney saying go ahead and file a lawsuit, and never did. It was all frivolous. Anybody just trying to point a finger or do things. But I don't like those kind of calls. And reporting to boards, and those were all the things. Can you give us, why we did these deals, and can you support it with information? So that was work back then for a couple years, right? One day I like to run. I'll get to that later. I go on jogs. It's very peaceful for me and meditative, and I run early, and I saw the sunrise one day. And I was having a dark day, and the sun was coming up, and I'm like, it's pretty great. No matter what I got going on, that's pretty great. And I'm going to figure out how to get through another one of these until tomorrow. And did, right? And then something would happen, and finally, the thaw happened a little bit. We took, like, when we did CCIM, I mean, there was nothing to do. That's why I finished my CCIM. I was so busy with Fresh and Easy. We took 2 classes. I took 2 classes, and then it was like, I don't know how I'm going to finish my CCIM. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I got a letter, a postcard from CCIM. I'm like, I guess I'll do it now, and finished up. So starting to do, how do I be productive when all is shit, right? What can we do today that where you're putting some equity in the bank that you can use tomorrow, and redoing. And that's kind of how we rebooted our company. That's how I became partner with Dan and ROI. And that was the beginning of I'm not interested in staying here in this capacity. The other principal, who's a brilliant guy, Mike Gleason, Dan's first partner, just kind of stopped coming in, answering the phone, got involved in a bunch of, he was fighting everybody for payment when we knew we weren't getting paid for a while, if at all. And he's threatening lawsuits, and when he would come in, he would scream. He used to hand me a lot of business just because he didn't want to work on it. He didn't need to. And I was new in the business, and I needed reps. And I'm like, yeah, sure, anything, all of it, I'll take it. At some point, it didn't make sense for me to be staying there on my splits when I was literally the only one in the office. I was there regular business hours when nothing was happening for years. Dan's like, Dan would come in. He's like, all right, nothing going on. I'm going to go play golf. I'm like, I'm going to work and figure some things out. And eventually that's where I told Dan, I'm like, hey man, I'm not interested in staying here. And I'll give you a year. I'm not going to leave you shorthanded. We'll figure it out, and I'll make sure everything's okay. And he's like, no. I want to figure it out. What's going on? And so I said, I'd like this to be better. And it was interesting too. Around that time, a lot of people were doing the same, right? That's how you came over to MDL. So we developed a mousetrap that we would have people be able to stay for years and have no glass ceilings. You can make as much as you want with us, and you could do whatever you want with us. And we wanted to attract talent. So I think we did a pretty good job at that. We grew from 3 agents to 16. Really don't know how we add more. We can, I guess, but we haven't been. We just wanted to diversify. It was three of us left. It was me, Mike, or Mike's gone. Sorry, it was me, Dan, and Todd Boyer when we rebooted the company, and it was like sometimes checks didn't come in for a while because they're going to be a capital call, or we're going to pay the bills. So in 2012, we did our experiment on the new company, and it worked. We had profit sharing at the end of it. There was like all of the matrix. I did, I don't know how many spreadsheets and different scenarios on how to do splits, and when, wherever, all of the back of house of our business. And then Dan would collaborate with me. He's like, no, not that, this. And we would talk to all of our like other industry friends, and how does it work? Do you do profit sharing, or do you do ownership? And so we really rebooted that part of the company, and it's really meant to be passed on so that it can live in perpetuity. It's a pretty cool platform.
So you're talking about the periods like post Great Recession, in Las Vegas, we're in commercial real estate, nothing's happening. Dan Adamson obviously was on the show and talked about it a little bit as well. He founded the ROI with Mike Gleason. Now you're saying it was down to 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was never really that big anyway. I think the biggest it was before, I think it was 4 agents and an admin.
But it was about to go to 0.
It was,
I guess, just Dan. So Dan, in a way,
listened. Well, it could have. Like, I don't know what Todd would have done, but and it wasn't Dan. I wasn't leaving Dan by himself at that point. It would have been Dan and Mike, and he's like, no, I think I need to do something about Mike too. Mike, the way Dan puts it is, it was a great movie with a bad ending.
Mm-hmm.
Those are Dan's words, and I think Mike just was ready to do something different.
And Dan was listening to his customer, so to speak, you as an agent at his brokerage.
Yeah.
So you're saying, here's what I would want as your customer.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys together collaborated and rebooted ROI.
Yep.
And took it from, you said 3 to now 16.
Agents.
Yeah, agents.
Yeah.
Awesome. So out of that, having the next day mentality to now, here you are. So you have 3 sort of partners in your life. Dan Adamson in ROI,
mm-hmm.
Angelica in
mm-hmm.
your brokerage business, and Isabella in your brokerage business.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about each of them as individuals, and then I want to talk about some takeaways around partnerships.
Okay.
Because they're all sort of different. When you say the word partner, do you think of them as your partners?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think of everybody as my partner, but just a little bit differently, tangentially. Like Dan, is definitely the partner in running the business, and how, next, whatever we're going to do, we collaborate. And we have 2 other directors too. Todd and Kit Gradsky as well. But we collaborate on everything. And like, what are we going to do with brokerage? Are we going to buy the service? Are we going to market it? How do we do this? Are we going to hire somebody? All that stuff. That's Dan. And then Angelica and Isabella on what do we want to do? So,
well, you talked about who Dan is, how you met, how you became partners, and really in the early days, like what the relationship, how the relationship was formed beyond just the transactional business part, how him and his wife opened up their lives to you and your wife.
Yep.
Who is Angelica? And how did she come into your life as a business partner?
Yeah, it was a rocky start at the beginning, and then it really took off. Angelica and we met. So this is all during that time-ish. Right around that time, a little bit after. So now the company trying to scale, business is picking up. Dan and I were like, we need some help, right? To around. So we were going to hire an assistant, and we were looking around. Months prior, this is kind of still recession-ish. Angelica is a Collier. She's working with Joe Bonifato. They got Tropicana Center. I think it was in receivership. It was in receivership. And they needed to get to a certain point of lease, vacant or occupancy. And some of my non-proud moments in brokerage is just working with people. And I'm fortunate enough not to have to work with people anymore. But literally, if you had a pulse and there was a path to getting a deal on, I had to do it. I mean, it was kind of, those were the times, right? Otherwise, there was no deals, and I couldn't pick and choose the, whatever. Of course, I wanted to work with people that I know, like, and trust. That's an RBN thing, but it's also a mentality we have. But sometimes I was like, ugh, okay, I'll work with somebody. Well, do you remember Stephen Barry's? Stephen Barry's was it's kind of a Ponzi scheme where
You're saying Steve and Barry's?
Stephen Barry's was a
Okay.
discount clothing company. They were all the rage during the recession, and their deal was they would lease out big box spaces. They would get a bunch of tenant improvement allowance. And basically, they would pay their inventory with a tenant improvement allowance and then move on to the next. So there was, as long as they were growing the company, they were making money. But they never made money in the business. And then eventually the music stopped and all went to hell. Well, there was a poor man's version of Stephen Barry's that came into town. And I'm not going to mention a name. But I did a deal with them at a center that was a problem. I'm not going to mention that center either. It was just unleasable space. It just completely functionally obsolete. That nobody bought it. The whole thing should be torn down, but we had to do something with it, right? And this guy was like, "All right, I can take it, but give me a couple of bucks." And basically, he bought clothing by the pound, and then he would sell it cheap. So Tropicana Center had all this big box vacancy. I'm like, "All right, you could do a deal here. They need you. We're going to help solve the receiver problem, and all this." And Angelica was like, I don't know, 25 or 6. And she looks at the offer. We wrote an offer. And she's like, I don't understand this. And I'm like, what don't you understand? Well, what do you need money for? What's it like? She was, and really astute and just picking things apart.
She's not saying, I don't understand this because I'm 25 and don't know anything.
This deal doesn't make sense.
She's saying, I'm looking at the offer that you presented, and I know enough to know that what you're presenting economically doesn't make any sense.
Correct.
Okay.
And I agreed with her, but I'm
you're representing your client.
A client, right?
Yeah.
And we wound up doing the deal, but she fought me on it the whole way. If you know Angelica, you know how she can be. And then, and really made an impression. I'm like, she is really sharp. She was asking a lot of questions most wouldn't. She's beyond her years in the business. And I was just really impressed with her. 6 months later, I found she was no longer with Colliers. And I'm like, what's going on there? And I told Dan, I think we should call this girl. We did. She interviewed incredibly well, and she was on board. She had one foot in life still. She worked for Moet Hennessy. She would do, she was in promotions. She would do whatever. And so she was still in that life too. And I'm like, just rough out of the gate. Like Dan didn't want to deal with her anymore because she was just inconsistent. When she was good, she was great. And when she wasn't, like, you got to figure out what you're doing. Do one or the other.
So like professionally with her, like dependency, like reliability, I should say. That's what you're saying?
In the beginning.
Okay.
This is when she's still in her 20s and still
there's
doing whatever.
Several people in our industry that, like we talked about, Jared, bartended until his business got up and running.
Yep.
Got it. So she's like, her immediate source of revenue is nightlife promotions.
Yep. Stay
out all night. Wouldn't show up on time the next day.
Right.
Okay.
So we had a few moments. Had to let her go for a minute. And she called, I think 2 months later. Maybe it was less. She said, I want to talk to you. Could we have coffee? She's like, give me another chance.
Wow.
Because when she walked out the door, I told her, you're wasting your talent. You are a special person, but this is unacceptable and we're not going to have that here. So good luck. She called me and she goes, what you said meant a lot to me. Give me a chance. and she's amazing. She's one of the strongest. She's one of the strongest people in this business in the country. We work with a lot of people around the country. She walks into boardrooms with CEOs of publicly traded companies and will not bat an eye and tell them they're wrong. And she's right. And they believe her. She's an amazing person. And she's doing a great job in her family as a mom and being a matriarch of that family. She's a really cool lady. If you don't know Angelica, you should.
I saw Angelica was one of the first guests on Takeaways. This is now years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And told her story. I think it's, if I'm guessing off the top of my head, it might be episode 13. All right, Isabella.
Isabella, I told you a little bit about her.
Mm-hmm.
She's been really good. And she was young, god dang, 22. And we're dragging her around and throwing her into like big time meetings, and people are looking at her and like, you got to say something. She would say, because she would go in and go, they should be doing this, or we should do this, or whatever. And then you get in the meeting and we're looking at Isabella and she was afraid to talk, or it just was, it's hard. It's very intimidating, especially young woman in the business. It's, you have to, why is this person here? Is it nepotism? She's really good. And she is. She's very creative. She's super strong. Mentally, she is a fighter. And she's a very proud person. She does a great job, and her reputation is everything to her. And she doesn't want anybody saying anything bad about her. She overdoes everything to make sure that, nothing's left for chance. She's pretty, and she's got both those two are amazing ceilings. Speaking of Angelica, she wanted me to say that I'm a very good mentor and teacher, and you should mention that, Brian. So, I try to be. I try to make sure.
I'll tell you a story.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she said it on the podcast or her and I just talked about it once, but she told me, like, in the early days of working with you, that like you thought she was going to kill you when she was driving the car. Like, you guys are driving around. You literally thought that you guys were going to end up in a fatal car accident because of the way she drove.
True.
And you taught her, don't drive to the car in front of you. Drive like 6 cars in front of you or something like that. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
What did you say to her? What was the advice?
Yeah, it was like at least 2 cars in front. God, I learned something in racing school. I've been on track with motorcycles and cars. One of the things, you tend to look down. You tend to look right in front of you. And the coolest thing I learned, and it was on a motorcycle racing school, was, and it's pretty high level, and there's like pros out there racing with you, but I wasn't one of them. I was in level 1, and there's a deal that human physiology, it got really into a lot of science. Human physiology, what do you think the distance is that we are most concerned about as humans in feet? What would you say it is? It's 20. Why?
Because that's when a tiger jumps out of a bush?
Another person.
Okay.
If another person's inside of 20 feet of you, you're in trouble. Outside of 20 feet, you got some options. So we're hardwired at 20 feet, and that goes into a car. Well, if you're doing 60 miles an hour and you're looking 20 feet in front of you, you're missing the world. So one of the instructors goes, "What's that flag man doing?" I don't see a flag man. All I see is, the line in front of me. He's like, you got to pick up your eyes. Like, if you're staring down at the waves at your feet, like, look up, look at the horizon, you could see the oil derricks out there. You can see all the stuff if you're on the ocean. You have to be looking that far ahead, and then nothing comes to you at surprise. So it was one of those types of the lessons. But yeah.
So Angelica carries with her that your level of mentor to her that taught her 25, however old she was when you told her this, like how to drive more safely. And I think, like you brought up, she told you to bring up that you're a good mentor. And in our industry, I know it occurred for me. I know I'm doing it too. It's clear that you have done it and are probably doing it consciously or subconsciously. I don't want to say we're raising people alongside us, But in some ways we are. It's one thing to sit someone down and say, this is a letter of intent. Here's what goes in there. These are the levers you have to negotiate with. These are negotiating tactics that you can deploy or are going to be deployed against you. You should learn them. This is a net effective rent analysis. There's mentoring in that regard. But I find it interesting. Like, there's also mentoring in don't drive to the bumper in front of you. Drive to the one, 3-4 cars down.
Yeah.
So you are a good mentor.
Thanks. There's a book that I always think of, sci-fi fantasy, interesting book, but there's a character in it, and he's like a assassin monk. He comes from this, got some magic involved and some other stuff, but he comes from this culture where you're either adding or you're subtracting, and he was always adding. He wanted to add. So whatever he left behind is better or worse. Are you taking away or are you giving? I always think of that. Never want to be subtracting. And that involves mentoring people and doing the right things. Yeah.
Yeah. So our UNLV real estate school is called the Lead Institute, not school, program. And, Sean and Paul have done a great job of really revitalizing that, putting a lot of energy into it, getting kids who are at UNLV and, different majors interested in real estate too. And they have a mentorship program. They have that, but they also have a job fair. And then out of the job, you meet some people, and some want internships, some want to get in the industry. So I met a couple of them within the last, call it 30 days. One guy comes in, sitting there where you're sitting, and we're talking. And I noticed he had a verbal crutch. I don't want to say it was a tick, but it was a crutch in the same way people say like or right. He had this sort of like thing that he would do at the end of sentences. And I, in a way, sheepishly, I was uncertain if I should do it. I was kind of questioning myself, but I said, "Hey, do you mind if I give you a tip?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And I said, I'm gonna record you. We're gonna talk casually. I'm gonna record you, and I'm gonna show you something." And I put my camera up, and I just started asking him some questions, and he was talking. In 30 seconds, I stopped it, and I showed him. Like, I just want to point this out to you. Like, in a way, like you walk around, mustard on your face. Nobody wants mustard on their face.
Right.
This was, in a way, I noticed it, and I felt like I needed to tell him. So I shared this with my team out here, and they were horrified.
You did the right thing.
They were horrified that I would do this. They're like, this guy's horrified.
Oh.
He is never going to talk to you again. If you ever think he might consider employment here, you're wrong. Like, why would you do that to somebody? And my mentality was, I would want someone to point that out for me.
Yep.
So
I think you did the right thing.
I think so too.
Whether he doesn't want to work here or he does.
I don't think he'll ever forget me.
No. And he's going to fix that. And it's not going to be an impediment for him in the future. So well done. You
said of Angelica, you said of Isabella, you said you're a special person and you have talent. You said you're really good. They're really good. You're talking about them as it relates to our industry.
Correct.
What does it take to be a special person? What does it take to be really good? What do you see in them or other people?
In the industry?
Yeah, in our industry specifically.
We work on, I call crazy shit retail, weird stuff. So we have really good nationals, right? And I love doing the work for them. I think we're really good at it. Regardless who we're working with, and we have, God, I've worked with Ace Hardware for 20 some odd years. Luxottica with Sunglass Hut and lens crafters and stuff like that. Love working with those people, and those are relationships and really great. The hard stuff is like immersive entertainment or these giant thematic bars and restaurants. Hard. Millions of dollars, like 50, 60, 70 million dollars to get open in some cases. And the deal structures, how much rent they can, what's their right, and you're guiding the ship on this whole thing. You have to, if depending, it doesn't matter what side you're on. Honestly, it all comes down the same side because the deal's either going to make or doesn't. It's not like, oh, we're going to do a deal with 14 other of this 30,000 square foot thing. No, you're not. I mean, we're going to figure this out or we're not, right? They can do that. How much can a customer pay? Are these the right customers coming in? What do the co-tenants look like? How much money you need? How are you going to pay that back? What's the guarantee? Where have you done this before? And so many other questions. And really vet those types of, and then stand behind, like really go out there and stand behind what we're talking about to everybody. Sometimes it's the tenant wants to do the deal. You don't know. You're not doing that deal. You're not doing it here. It ain't working. How do I know? And then laying that out. So they're both able to do that. There's not a lot of people in the industry that can do that.
Someone
be
who's
right.
who's not as strong or not as good, like what would they do?
It does come down to reps. So you have to have them. You could be super strong in the business and you can get, and I don't know. I think it takes you to be passionate about it, in whatever capacity that is. So if you certain people like doing church deals and they're good at it. Certain people only do dental deals and they're good at it. And so on. But you have to be like, where, for me, I put myself in ownership position, both sides. I have and probably a non-healthy, empathetic, sympathy for people. So I don't want to put somebody in business that's not going to make it, for the business owner, because I've been there, and for the landlord, because it sucks getting that replaced. I don't want to advise that we're going to do. Now, do we do businesses that don't make it? Of course. I mean, it's a law of averages. We try to mitigate that risk as much as we can, and we are always having a backup plan. And we're hardly like, sometimes everybody's looking at each other like, should we do this? It's like, we got nothing else going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's been, we have, let's go ahead and do that, right? But anybody that can at least be in that position and not just trying to get a deal done, I think is good in the business. There's some people that just want to get a deal on and get to the next deal and shove a deal down, just turning and burning, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that word, turning and burning, or that phrase, turning and burning. That means you don't give a rip of what's going on. Anything, it could be scorched earth behind you, you're getting paid. I want to get paid. I mean, that's why we're in the business. But I want to feel good about it. I want things to be better from the work I put in, not worse. Not somebody else's problem. That ain't me. Angelica and Isabella are both that way. Very, very compassionate to the work they do.
So we're getting into it quite a bit. I'm going to talk, you and I are going to talk through and unpack really what is commercial real estate as it relates to retail, and go back to the parts of your bio that had some of those buzzwords.
Okay.
So fundamentally, you're a commercial real estate broker. You specialize in retail of all the product types. The categories that are in your bio are traditional retail projects, Las Vegas Resort Corridor, experiential retail, entertainment-driven destination. You also use the term immersive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with, I think, the easy one that people think about when you think about retail, which is traditional retail projects.
Okay.
So, and we also talked about being on one side or the other. The framing of this is you either own the real estate and you're the landlord or the seller,
right,
or you want to occupy the real estate, likely as the tenant. As a broker, you can represent one or the other, rarely both, but that happens sometimes. However, like when you have a listing in a traditional retail project, it's probably a shopping center around town, or you mentioned the term power center, or a neighborhood strip center. But you have a listing, you're representing the landlord, you're advertising their property to find them tenants.
Yep.
That's generally what we're talking about. You also mentioned you represent tenants.
Mm-hmm.
Sprouts, first one comes to mind, but others like that. That would be traditional retail.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Anything to add on the traditional retail front?
Yeah. What about it?
I'm asking, is there anything to add?
No. Traditional retail is stuff you can find in any city in America. I mean, there's different sizes and things
Right.
for educating the room or whatever. But
there's also, like you mentioned, there's national. So you can work with national type tenants or properties that attract national type tenants.
Correct.
You can work with mom and pop operators. You talked about some of the times in your career when you had to work with anyone with a pulse. Not usually I don't want to say not qualified tenants, but probably less qualified tenants that are just taking a shot on this, don't really have a track record.
Yeah, put together business plans for them, the whole 9 yards, like literally be a consultant.
So there's a good example. So at a point in your career, you're the kind of broker that's working with retail tenants where you're helping them put together a business plan.
They're going to fail if they open
value,
business.
Right.
I drove by a dog. I had a horrible listing during the recession because, again, you're just taking work. Not going to say where that was, but I was showing a space to a girl. And I'm like, this space is going to be too big. Here's going to be your rent, whatever. She wanted to open. She was a dog enthusiast. She wanted to open a dog washing store, whatever, or cutter, a doggy groomer. I'm like, listen, I don't know you're going to make it here. I'm representing the landlord. He's probably not going to do the deal anyway. It's going to cost X. Can you do it? It was too big. Rent was too high. Why do you like this area? I go, I'm generally not representing a 900 square foot dog groomer. Just because I usually, I'm doing bigger things, but I had nothing going on. So you know what? Would you let me represent you? And so I helped her put a business plan together. I put her in a strip center not too far away from where we were looking. And I drove by that strip center the other day and she is still open. And I'm like, I felt good about that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hopefully she's happy with, all that business, but it is still open and that is not normal, especially for somebody that was not going to make it coming out of the gate.
So that's
kind of cool.
That's traditional.
Traditional.
Next is Las Vegas Resort Corridor. I think I know what this means, but you tell me in your own words.
So there's two markets in our town. The Resort Corridor is, anything from it's Tropicana. You can go to Mandalay and all that, so you can extend it to Russell. So from Russell to basically Sahara would be the Resort Corridor.
On the Strip.
On the Strip. Really different business than the rest of the market. It's more New York, Madison Avenue, Chelsea, those types of businesses are going to go there versus, Fifth Avenue. Than anywhere else in the country. I mean, it's one of the few markets in the country that can compete at that level with those rents and all the stuff. So that is the Resort Corridor. So started working on the Resort Corridor probably like really, really 5 years in. So right at the wrong time, like 08, right? I got into real estate in 03, 08. And delving into that, getting a better understanding of it, starting to work with people that wanted to be in there, and all the things. Tough deals.
Did you start on the tenant side or the landlord side?
Tenant side.
So back then and even now, you hear people say that the strip properties don't pay commissions to brokers.
Most don't. Some do. So the REITs do, and the casinos won't.
So that's sort of changed, but not entirely.
Yeah, and it's a case by case. They'll say, it depends. It helps that people know who I am now. That was hard. You kind of have to have someone in tow. You can't just start hanging out with, hey, so-and-so at MGM or Wynn or whatever. You want to tell me what you need and I'll say if I can find it. And then it just didn't happen. They're really busy. And
what was your first deal on the Strip that you did?
As a tenant rep, it was Vegas discount vitamins in Forum Shops. Not Forum Shops, excuse me, Fashion Show. And I was like, all right, that's about the same. But all of the things, I mean, how much, that's where you start really looking at people's business plans. How is it? And CCIM helped that too.
Yeah.
Like,
what are some of your active assignments on the Resort Corridor now?
Well, we just closed out a big project, something that we were working on, and I have I have a few tenant assignments on that I can't talk about. Large, but the one assignment that really we got savvy on was Grand Bazaar shops. So we got hired onto that in 2015. Evan and Larry Siegel wound up bringing us on. They decided that was a really cool deal. In the fact that Larry, who was the Mills Corporation, and basically we created all the outlet malls in the United States. Said, what if we go micro? Why? And this is during the recession too, when the conversations, they knew Larry knows everybody in the world in real estate, in retail. Like, he's the godfather of retail. He can call any CEO, any company, and they're going to return his call. We're going to build this thing on the 2 acres in front of then Valleys, and we're going to charge, $600 a foot, and we're going to get corporate sponsors and all these things.
We're at the southeast corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Flamingo.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Well, they got it open, and it didn't look great. It had a lot of problems. And then they interviewed a few different companies. We got selected, and then started unpeeling the layers of the onion, which were the skeletons in the closet. And there was one after the next. I mean, it was incredible how many things and how many barriers of entry. And Caesars, once the project was built, getting anything done with Caesars, if you need to change anything, is never easy. And we went through multiple CEOs. This guy's going here. And so restarting the process over and over and over again. Ownership changed there with Caesars, right? And we were redeveloping, we were like, we got to redo this whole thing. And so we worked on that for 10 years. The property just changed hands. I don't think it's public, and I'm not going to say to whom, but eventually it'll be found out. So we're no longer on that project, but we transformed that project. And I think Ole Red's the number 2 or 3 busiest venue on the Strip. And that was, so many things. So underlying ground lease with Caesars, doing a ground lease with Ryman Entertainment, celebrity base, negotiating that Blake Shelton was going to play at Caesars Coliseum as part of the deal, extending term, finding power when there wasn't any. Just on and on and on. So complex. That was that was a real interest. And then Bottle Blonde at 28,000 feet next door, and Giordano's Pizza, number 1 in the chain. Wahlburgers was I think the busiest QSR, and one of the busiest QSRs in anywhere for a while. They were doing 13 million out of 5,000 square feet. No, not so much. They opened another one, and the TV show, but just stuff like that. Really super cool, fun, hard, really hard.
Sounds
Years.
hard. As you're talking about it, I'm asking, like, is it worth the squeeze?
Yeah, because it did open a lot of other doors. It put us in front of, and it made us so much better. Like, can we do that? Yeah, we could do this, right? Like, I think I can do anything half the time, and then I'll figure it out. Sometimes I get ahead of my skis a little bit, but this one wasn't one of those cases. We just had to figure out the rules of engagement, and we were on shifting sand. It was always changing, and just to get it to stick and to get it forward. We had so many different concepts in those 2 flagship buildings that didn't make. Lack of funding, or it just took so long, and Caesars wouldn't approve it, and it was county approvals, and we're changing sign packages, and now all of a sudden they sold, or they lost their funding, or something happened here, and then it's on to the next, and then would Caesars approve this use? No, we wouldn't. It just, all the things. After all the work, just keep doing it. Was it worth the squeeze? Yeah. It not only did it make us better, we made a lot of money eventually on everything we did, but it really put us in a different platform within our industry, where there's not a lot of people that can do what we did there.
What was it about your initial presentation, do you think, that got you guys selected?
We really told them what we thought was wrong. I don't know if anybody else did that. We had a lot of questions, more questions than anything else, and we had solutions. And we're honest, and I think that really it made a difference to them. That we're not just in it for the money; that we're in it to fix it. We want it to be better. This is a special location; it should be better, and we want to help you. And then a lot of follow up, just to make sure that they knew that we were still there.
Let's jump to experiential retail.
Yeah.
Is this now Area 15?
That would be, yeah. So Area 15 is the largest experiential retail, save for Universal or Disney. Largest private experiential retail in the world. So we're just wrapping up on District 2 or Zone 2 as it's called now. And so that'll complete 30, I think it's 36 or so acres out of 85 that Fisher Brothers owns. We have leases out on. We have 2 big spaces left. I think we have 22,000 square feet in one building and 11,000 square feet as a destination experiential restaurant. Where what does experiential mean? Experiential is where you're going, where it's just not a thing. It's not a transaction. It's you're experiencing something while you're doing it. It could be pay to play. So I'm going to pay and I'm going to do, like, bowling's experiential, honestly. But can you make it competitive socializing where it's, it's like this crazy bowling, or maybe there's music and stuff like that, and there's other games to do and yada yada. And food's a big component and bar's a big component. That would be more competitive socializing. But anything in that realm would qualify as experiential. And the thing that you have to worry about is it going to be evergreen, meaning will it last a long time, or is it just something that should be on a rotating roadshow? Like, there's a lot of IP or intellectual property concepts that come from the either books or movies where they're being brought to life. Like, we had Malibu Barbie Cafe. Great, but that was a temporary thing. There's even like Hello Kitty Cafe and the food truck in front of, by the now Bruno Mars Avenue off the strip. Like, stuff like that is experiential, where it's a little bit more. And so we have a whole campus of that. And so the next 40 or so acres becomes some sort of a tangent to that, whether it's kind of a differentiated housing. Is there, Winston Fisher, the principal of the project, really wants the NBA. Like everybody else, he wants an NBA stadium. It could go on the next phase. It could go a lot of places. I've seen it on 100 site plans around the city. But it's cool that the NBA is coming here, by the way. And it'll be, what are we missing? MLS, and then it kind of rounds out the majors, which is wild because it was illegal to have pro sports here other than fighting.
Wow. That's how I grew up, always believing that we'll never have pro sports.
Everything's fixed.
Because of gambling. Yeah. That's right.
What was the stat? 95% of the sports betting took place outside of Nevada with bookies. 5% was regulated, and we couldn't have it here because it was going to be fixed. Like, come on. The only regulated place is going to fix all the things.
Well, when you put it like that, it makes so much sense. Is there anywhere else like that's experiential retail other than Area 15?
So a lot of it's interesting. So what happens with retail? So we talk to a lot of people around, and we talk to a lot of CEOs and chairmans and stuff like that all over the world. One of them is one of the cooler guys I've ever met in retail, a guy named Vittorio Radici. He's with Central Group. They have 40 of the most iconic department store retail in city centers, hundreds of years old building. And La Rinascente is one of their flagships. Selfridges in London's another that you may know about. But he said, and I'll quote to him, it's not about, he goes, you can buy a Hermes bag anywhere. I'm not going to do his Italian accent; it'll be bad. But you can buy an Hermes anywhere. You can buy it down the street. Why would you buy it at La Rinascente? You buy it here because it becomes a souvenir of the experience. Brilliant. So experiential is gets away from the transaction. That's getting away from the transaction. Yeah, you can buy it. There's probably 5 places in Milan you can get it that are Maze bag, but if you're going to spend that kind of money. But remembering because you're there in the food hall and looking at the Duomo over, right? Like all of this stuff that becomes real, right? So there's an author that wrote a book. It's a cool book if anybody wants to look it up. And he does a lot of grocery stores, and it's called Irreplaceable. A guy named Kevin Kelly. And I chatted him up a few times. He was a really nice guy. And he kind of like that assassin monk that I was talking about. He talks about, I just watch people, and are they smiling when they leave, or do they look like they're worn out because of the experience?
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to create spaces where they go in there and they're leaving happy, right? And you see that. And that's kind of where, so that now becomes the experience is the transaction is a memory of the experience. It's a souvenir of the experience. How do you make more retail like that, right? So experiential retail kind of blends. A lot of the mall, the big mall REITs, the Simons and GGPs and stuff like that, getting some of the tired anchor spaces back. What do you do with these spaces? And they're delving in to some of this. And it's interesting to see how that's going to work and how long, how evergreen is this concept going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And are you going to give up how much square footage of, where Saks is 167,000 feet, I think, on 2 levels here at Fashion Show. That's a big box. Forever 21 space is 120 at Fashion Show, and they have a lease out on half of it. So, what do you do with the other? And that's to an experiential. So how much of that, and how does that blend in with traditional retail? And do you get that where you're actually having an uplifting experience by going to those things? And I think really that's the secret. And how I don't think you could just throw one thing in there and say, oh, okay, now we're experiential. Or now, right? How do you build on that? How do you create? And I think,
well, you could, but you'd be short-sighted too.
Yeah.
Like sticking with the Fashion Show mall, it's kind of like the casinos. It's like, what are we doing to bring people here so that they end up gambling?
Right.
What are we doing with the space in the mall to bring people here so that first they want to come here physically instead of buying whatever it is online? They're having fun while they're here, and while they're here, they're probably buying something else too from somebody else.
Yep. Which is why the restaurants have become the darlings of everything, because they need to fill out. They like good ones will fill up, and you have time commitments to those places, and there's likely going to be some cross shopping while you're there.
Entertainment-driven destination.
I'm not sure what that meant. Where did you get that?
In your bio.
Entertainment-driven destination. I mean, that's another Area 15. So that's an entertainment-driven destination zone. You're going there just for entertainment. We really, in spite of our best efforts, we only have a couple retailers in there. It has to be the right, like one of the retailers we're doing in zone 2 is called Dolls Kill, which is a festival wear, like racy festival wear from LA. It's like really edgy, cool. Miniso's going in there, and stuff like that. Well, food and beverage, but actually retail, walking away with things. It's a little tricky when people are going there to be entertained. They don't want to have bags and stuff like that. Even, God, Universal, we just really sad. Universal City Walk, which I kind of was like one of the pioneers in that, isn't doing a great job at that. So they're getting people, like, you'll eat there, but nobody's buying the stuff. It's all their IP now from different movies, and you can buy Harry Potter wand and stuff like that. But other than that, they have T-shirts and stuff. And nobody really cares. So it's tricky. It's tricky. It has to be curated the right way.
Yeah. Immersive. That wasn't in your bio, but you said it.
So, example of an immersive, like if you've been to Meow Wolf, that's immersive. You go in there, you go through their portal, you're in another dimension, everything's weird. You're not in your space anymore. Like mentally you're checked out. You don't feel like you're in Las Vegas. You don't feel like, oh yeah, I can just walk outside and get my car. You're like immersed in this thing. The escape game, the new escape game, this is their flagship for the country. at Area 15. People are blown away by going in there. So it's an escape room, which now you're in an immersed environment and you're trying to solve a way to get out and all that stuff. That's really immersive. And Interstellar Arc, which is Felix and Paul Studios out of Montreal, really cool group. They do all the photography on the International Space Station. They're on the Artemis mission to the moon and all that stuff. Bunch of rocket scientists, honestly. They put together Interstellar Arc where it's free roam VR in 20,000 feet. You are on a spaceship colonizing a new planet, and you're on the ship, and it's a rotating centrifuge. So you're looking up, and there's trees hundreds of feet above you rolling around in a deal. I mean, it's wild. There's a holographic Fox guide that walks you through the whole thing. I mean, it's wild.
So how does it work for you and the team? So you've got spaces that you represent. You've got concepts that are interested in going there.
Yep.
Some of the questions you were asking earlier when you qualify somebody, do you guys actually get on an airplane and go visit the experiences yourselves?
Yes.
And then from a business standpoint, is there like, are your costs reimbursed by the project for you to do that? Is this out of your own pocket?
Depends. We can get the cost reimbursed, but a lot of times we're just taking a flyer on it. It's
so
the
that
right
you're
thing to do.
it's like that's your cost of doing business, so you're a better professional, so to speak.
Yeah, whether or not we do a deal with that thing, we know about it now.
Mm-hmm.
We've experienced it.
Like just now when you're talking about putting on the VR headset and looking up, I have to believe you did that. Otherwise you wouldn't be physically redoing what you were doing.
Right. Yeah. And I just think, and while you're there, by the way, you're going out to see some other things. What else is in this town? What other restaurants should we be seeing? And right, you're learning other markets and you're seeing traffic patterns. So it's not just doing that one thing and coming away and go, yeah, go, no go. First of all, you're not just jumping on a plane because you heard about something. Like you're talking to people. What's your deal? Send me something. What's the, and then you start vetting it. And then when it becomes real enough and you're like, all right, somebody's got to go check this out. Here we go.
You also talked about national work.
Uh-huh.
So talk about it in terms of like these categories. As a retail broker, what is national work?
So,
and who are you doing it for?
I work with a couple of people on a few projects. We actually have a listing in Huntsville, Alabama, which is crazy. But it's an entertainment-based listing next to Trash Panda Stadium, which is the number one attended AA stadium in the country in Town Madison, and they're called the Rocket City Trash Pandas. We have a good friend through the Retail Brokers Network, principal of South Pace Properties in Birmingham, Alabama, that called us and said, hey, uber wealthy client who owns Town Madison wants us to take this entertainment-based listing next to this. So we're going to tee it up. You're going to get the job, and then it's yours. We don't want, just we'll run everything through our company and be legal about everything. But we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're like, the hell you're not. We'll work on it with you. Well, first of all, we'll come. So they actually paid us to go to there, and it was surprisingly very cool. And we're like, I guess we're taking a listing in Huntsville, Alabama. So that's on the listing side, which is a whole other thing because we're doing some other crazy stuff.
That sounds like more of an anomaly in a way, like
Maybe
a relationship.
Yes, no.
I guess a relationship took you there, and so that's why you're there. It's like you were prospecting it, tracking it, prospecting it, and chasing it yourself.
Right, and we're helping a couple other large companies on the other side of the country too, just on modernizing some of their offerings as far as
is this consultancy work?
That's a consultant type thing. So the national representation. So Truck Yard is keeping me really busy nationally. They're a Dallas-based company. They're a large format, brewery, live music, food trucks. They'll see 500,000 people a year. They have a sister concept called Second Rodeo in the Stockyards in Fort Worth. We're growing right now. We have multiple sites going in different markets in Texas with local brokers in Texas and also in Colorado.
And so how do you get an account like that?
The principle is, okay, I could talk the language. he was presenting at a conference, and I'm like, this is the coolest concept I've seen. Like it's wild. We've been trying to get him here, but we can't find the real estate. It needs to be. They're very expensive deals. The build out and just getting them in, and do you want a basically a curated park in your project or in your development, something that's going to draw thousands and thousands of people. If you do, then it's like a 50-50 split on the build out costs and stuff like that. It's just hard, and they can't pay big rent unless they're doing big sales, which they should, but they're not going to sign up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I ran him down at a conference, and I'm like, who are you working with? Well, I got a guy that I work with in Dallas. I'm like, what about the rest of the country? He goes, yeah. So I got on board with them. Then we went through the pandemic and nothing happened. Then he finally decided to move on from who he was working with in Dallas. And he said, you can have the whole state. You can have the rest of it. So we decided as a strategy just to listen, Texas is 35 million people. Let's build out in Texas and stay close to home while you're scaling. And then we'll look at some other markets, here and there. And one of them happened to be in the Denver market. It's a really cool site. And we need to find something else in Denver now. But that's how I came about that.
How do you find a site in Denver for this concept?
Get with good local agents.
Okay, so now you're representing him, and then you put the word out, or this concept, then you put the word out to your network saying, this is our criteria, this is what we do, this is what we're looking for. And
so
someone brings you the site.
I have a team in all of these things. So local people, I'll run point on the deal. Just give me the real estate and like anything local, related, you do it. And depending on, if they, does the paperwork, if the state doesn't care, I'm happy to send the paperwork. If the state does care, like here, then you send the paperwork and you do all. But I'm in the room, and I'll be the liaison between the client, and they're hard deals.
So in Las Vegas, typically we talk about ourselves as an inbound market, meaning with national corporations or regional corporations, headquarters is not here. So someone has the account in the headquarter office and they do the deal here. For like example, what I do is office brokerage, and I did a Bank of America deal, but I represented the landlord because the landlord has property here that I represent. And at the time it was Brett Davis with JLL that represented Bank of America in Las Vegas because, again, back then, Bank of America was represented by JLL from Chicago.
Right.
Now they've jumped over to Cushman and Wakefield, and it's somebody else locally. But in your case, you're someone that's local who has secured national accounts.
Yep. And Angelica is working with Rooftop Cinema, which is a entertainment-based paid, which is a movie theater on rooftops with views in cities around the country, playing cult classic movies. And you put on headsets, you sit in a comfortable chair, you're outdoors, you got all these great views. And then there's food and drink to be had. And it's a really cool vibe. So she's been busy. She's been hopping around the country and doing site tours and stuff like that with them. So that was just somebody else that we've run into doing all of our stuff. So like Area 15, our outreach is in the thousands of different concepts around the world. It's crazy. And some of them make sense. Like Rooftop Cinema is out of London. And some of them make sense. And if you need some help, we're pretty good at what we do. And, it's kind of off and running.
I asked Dan, your partner, these questions. I thought it'd be fun to ask you also.
Okay.
What's the biggest deal you've ever done?
Square footage or just kind of like important? I think
the next question is most significant. So.
Yeah. I think probably Malwolf was the biggest one. It's 50-something thousand square feet.
This is the concept inside of Area 15.
Yeah.
So 50,000 square feet.
Yeah, 50,000 square feet. Not known. Like this was deal signed up number 2 from the original was in Santa Fe. or is in Santa Fe, and it was kind of crazy on a crazy project and all this stuff. It's like nobody knows what it is. It was pretty crazy. So that one, most impactful, I think
Most significant, however you define significant.
significant would be Old Red, just because that was impossible to get done, and it's done such. I mean, and it does such amazing business, and it's iconic, and we changed that intersection. It's really cool. Like, look at it, every time I pass it, I'm like, it makes me smile. All the years that took to get together, and what that did, and then what it did for the project and what it did for the city. It's cool.
What's a professional mistake that you made?
Not being myself.
Say more.
Happens every once in a while. Not as much as it used to. I don't know. You're in a room with some other people and you're just trying to fit in. And ethics are huge to me. I don't lie. And if we do anything, whether we do a deal together or not, I don't want you thinking that I did wrong by you. I don't. So I've learned to trust my gut more. I'm 58 years old, and I'm like, really, I really trust my gut now. And sometimes I didn't. I'm like, all right, you need to be here. You need to be in this meeting. You need to be saying these things. Or sticking behind this guy that you don't agree with, or girl that you don't agree with, and stand up, and like all of it felt wrong. Like hair standing up. Like, I don't like this. This is bad. Those moments. And now it doesn't mean that I've followed through and all the things, but at that time I probably had some different ways I could have handled that situation and maybe steered out of it or changed the direction where things were going. And I just didn't have the confidence to believe in myself and just kept my mouth shut or followed or did some other things. So not being myself, not trusting my gut. I would say that's the answer.
What is something that is actually really hard about a career in commercial real estate that most people would never know about?
You would never know how long it takes to get a deal done. You would never know how many times you have to redo that deal to actually get it done. 5, 6, 7 times. You would never know, if you ever did get that deal done, that you might have to really chase to get paid on that deal when you had no concept of getting paid, and you become a collection agency and have to hunt people down. It's pretty wild, but nobody on the outside would ever say. You'd think everything, people are living big and doing things and having dinners. Man, it's you're banging your head going, come on. Like, let's be real. And then all the black swans that are out there, all the things that you just, every green light's on, everything you can see, and all of a sudden a sniper shoots in and just takes you out, and you're like, what just happened? Where did that come from? How did I miss that? They were never involved in this thing, and it's gone. So those types of things, nobody tells you about those things. If you're just getting into the business, they're out there.
I didn't ask Dan this, but I want to circle back. And I mentioned you, like, one of the first people I met when I got into real estate was a title guy named George Sorrentino.
George was good. So George is my best friend, my brother.
Is he older or younger?
Older. He appreciates you asking, though, because we get that. We look a lot alike. And he acts younger, but in a lot of cases. But he was my business partner all the way through the restaurant, through Burger King, through Houlihan's, and we had to break up. So it's kind of sad that we don't do business on a daily anymore, because we're really good partners. We complement each other really well. And I got into real estate. He got offered a partnership in a landscaping company, a big landscaping company coming out of the restaurant, and it just didn't work out. He just said, I can't work with this guy. It wasn't the type of relationship he wanted to be in. And title was rolling back at that time. And George won. He's an amazing salesperson. He won Salesman of the Year, every award, cruises, whatever it was. And then when the music stopped, he just didn't have tenure. And it was like, hey, we got to let you go. And that was it. and that was hard on him. He wound up. He's done well for himself. He wound up doing. He's in insurance, and he lives in San Diego. He has a brokerage company that focuses on supplemental health, supplemental when you get injured, and they have really targeted to certain size businesses. They got acquired. They're waiting for an IPO. All kinds of stuff. So he's done well for himself.
I met him. Super nice, super helpful for a young agent, really kind of training me on certain parts of the industry.
Yep.
And then I met you many years later. You were running with Fresh and Easy, I think, when you and I first like came into contact with each other.
Yes, I would have been.
Well, tell him I said hi.
I will. He's great. Talked to him yesterday.
All right, let's do some rapid fire takeaways.
Okay.
Is there a quote or saying that you love the most or say the most?
God, I have two. They could both be attributed to my father. One of them is, if you didn't have time to do it right the first time, do you have time to do it right now the second time? The answer is no. Do it right the first time. Don't make me ask you again. Don't have this conversation again. So that was a good one. And I do use that, and I think about that all the time. The other one, my dad too, is my dad's, we didn't talk about it. My dad, he's got Parkinson's, Lewy body. It's pretty sad. One of the most brilliant mechanical engineers I've ever seen. I know he had a bunch of Burger Kings and stuff like that, but we used to fix cars. He could rebuild anything mechanical. And he would say, if one man, this isn't the quote, but he would say, if somebody built it, I could build it. It's been done. It's solvable. His quote is, persistence overcomes resistance. I think of that all the time. There's always a way.
That's a good one. What's on your list of 1 or 2 must-read books?
2, I'll give you. I've been putting it off. I don't know why, but I'm gonna take a vacation in a few weeks here, and I'm gonna.
Sounds like you deserve it.
I know, right? Somebody. Have you read all Walter Isaacson books? I mentioned
some. Yeah, he writes bios of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Da Vinci was insane. And I've never read Einstein, and Einstein's always fascinating. I would like Da Vinci is wild. I would highly recommend reading Da Vinci by Walter Isaacson if you can. That dude was an alien on the planet. They're still proving his theories right now. 500 years later, they're like, oh, he was right about that. I'm like, oh my God, crazy. So Einstein by Walter Isaacson. And then my favorite book series of all time is a series called Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I think he's going to wrap it up in book 7. It was supposed to be book 6. So good. And it's supposed to come out in July. So those 2. Nice. Whatever, there's a title to it. I don't know what it is, but it's the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. It's so good.
Is there a podcast that you don't miss?
When I tune in, I don't listen to a ton of them. So a lot of times podcasts are worky for me. So I'll listen to them if I think I'm going to benefit, but I'm so burnt on work by the time I finish work that I don't want to do work to listen to more work and how I can be better at work. So it's hard. So I kind of have to build up to it, but so I like to chuckle. Smartless is pretty good. Mm-hmm. So I do like Smartless, and if I want to get a little more cerebral but still chuckle, I like Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard. I think he's super bright, and then I do enjoy yours. It's nice to hear, to get to know people that I know locally, and then hear their backstory and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is an interest or hobby that recharges you, or something you do just for the joy of it?
So I run 5 times a week, or thereabouts, maybe more, and I can get centered when I run. I've learned that if I listen to, one of the reasons I don't listen to podcasts is if I listen to things when I run, I don't meditate, I don't pray. There's like all these things that don't get out. And I wound up getting through the Game of Thrones books on audio because it's so voluminous. If you've ever listened to read or anything, insane writing, so good. And it just cuts off in the middle of the story, just like the show did. And they finished it up the last 3 seasons, and it was terrible. It really jumped the shark. But the books are insane. Took me forever to get through, and I stopped getting. That's my outlet. That's my happy place. That's where my subconscious breaks through, and I can really get centered. Problems will arise that I can solve that I didn't know I was having. All that stuff. So if I don't do that, I get really pent up and cranky. So that is what I do to recharge myself. Even if I don't want to, even if I'm tired, if I do that, I come back and I'm refreshed and rejuvenated. I'm ready to tackle a lot of different stuff. If I don't do that, I'm a little pent up and edgy.
Might be the same answer. How do you manage stress?
Yeah, that's good. And I don't do. There's a couple things I do love to do. So I play tennis, and that could be, and that's fun whether I win or lose. But it's a lot more fun if I win. It's fun if you play well. But I played competitively since after college. So the last whatever that many years are a lot. So that's really fun. I love riding motorcycles, and I just don't do it enough. I have 2 amazing motorcycles I'm moving around in the garage right now. I'm like, I have to take a trip. And so Rick Sellers, I don't know if you know Rick Sellers from Carpenter Sellers. He's one of my favorite people to go riding with. He's and I've ridden with Jeff before. I know you had him on the show. Jeff's a really good rider. Mark Bodecker's a really good rider too. But I've gone on some long trips with him. I'm due for that.
I'm going to ask this. I might modify it. How do you decide what causes or endeavors to get involved with?
Going back to the gut thing. So, does it feel right? Do I have time? What's it going to take away from other things? So I'm at a point right now, and you probably are as well, where it's like, it's not like I'm sitting around on a Saturday thinking, what am I going to do today? I mean, I have 100 things I could be doing right now. This is when I'm not working, and what am I choosing to spend my time on? And one of the things that I've been focusing on in life at this stage is balance, which I didn't do in the restaurant business, and I didn't do very well. Like when I was raising kids and everything, you get in these, I'm going to work a lot, so because we'll have to, and then what are you sacrificing with the kids, and are you present enough? And like when I was in the restaurant, I wasn't present for anything. Like Nicole's like, you don't remember that? I'm like, you like all the stuff that went into that.
So you're saying not that you're not physically present, you're mentally not even present where you are because your head's still in the restaurant.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, the fire drills and everything, and it's one thing if the restaurant is super busy and you're making a lot of money and you could staff the crap out of it, which covers all problems. Like if you're in that situation, you're golden, because the volume masks, a lot of the little things. When you're close to the margins and your staffing is just right, and if someone doesn't show up, or if all these little things happen, it's critical. And then you're losing clientele, and people are pissed off, and you're buying meals, and it's like staff walks out because it sucks here. So there's all these things that snowball, and we were there because everything that was going on with the corporate and what we had going on locationally, the location was good until it wasn't, and everything moved west, and then we were in this pocket where we were special events and stuff like that. So that was tough. I wasn't good then. I have tried to be better ever since then, and I realize it. But kind of when a go no go is kind of I really try to do a mind body spirit thing. Like, is it something that I feel good about consciously? Do I have the headspace for it? Do I want to do it? Right?
Is it that simple, or is there something, some other process that goes along with that?
Like that's an easier answer. The harder answer is it crosses a couple of those lines. How long is this going to be? All right. I don't love this person, or I don't love this idea, or there's going to be a pain in the ass here, or what is it? What are the upsides? Pluses, minuses. Is this a stepping stone to another thing that I want to do? Do I have to? There's a book. It's a broker book. I can't remember the name of the author. Doesn't matter. But there's a chapter in it called "Eating Frogs."
I think the book is called "Eat the Frog."
That's not the book.
Maybe they took a chapter from this book and called it that.
Yeah, it could be. But you know what that means? What it means is, I don't like doing this. I don't want to be doing this, but I got to do it, right? It's just it's a cost benefit analysis. But within that, like all the partners in my life, right? So if, like, is it risky for ROI commercial real estate? Dan, listen, man, I'm gonna take this on. I'm gonna walk if this goes sideways, we're gonna be we'll be protected. I don't do a lot of those types of things, but occasionally like something weird comes up and we're like, is this all right? Well, gut check, is this okay? Are we doing that? So that comes into play. Then my brokerage partners and Angelica and Isabella, do we want to do this? Do we all feel good about this? Let's all talk about it. And then if it's going to affect my home life, Nicole, you good with this? I'm going to be on the road a lot, or, the hours and whatever. I got to hang out with some people maybe that are okay or aren't okay for a minute, or, and I generally don't hang out with people. I don't really like, if I despise somebody because of their actions, not because I don't like you because what. But if you're doing bad stuff, I'm not going to associate with you. So you're off the list. But those are the types of decisions that you kind of have to weigh. So that's a harder question. Sorry, I'm so long-winded.
No, that's actually good. I've got an ending question. Before I ask, is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess so. Just as a give back to, like, if there's any young people that are listening to this or think that I want to do what he's doing or whatever, that's fine. I would get with a good senior partner or broker and just get what you get. You're not going to make a lot of money when you're younger in the business. You might, but it might be lucky money, but it's not going to be sustainable. But really put in the reps and work with somebody that you want to work with. You're both going to benefit, or you'll all benefit if it's a team. And it is a long run mentality, right? So your foundation, like John Wooden with the Pyramid of Success and the foundation, I always quote him. He taught his players at UCLA, most successful coach in the history of, I think, any sport, statistically. 10 national championships. What was it? Four straight undefeated seasons, I think. It was at least 3. But he had the blue chip players of the world wanting to play for him. And the first thing he taught everybody when they showed up is how to put on your socks. What? Do the little things right. Because if your sock's not on, you're going to get a blister. You're going to affect everybody in this room. Put your sock on right. And then when you put on your shoelaces, how to tie them correctly so they don't come undone in the middle of a play. That's where you start, not winning championships. You start by putting on your socks. So what can you do that's repetitive every day that's going to make you better in life? And then just keep adding to that and don't stop.
It's very good. It's always a pleasant surprise what answer comes out. That was a pleasant surprise answer. All right. So you've had a unique vantage point watching Las Vegas evolve, specifically from your lens of retail, but also experiential, everything we talked about. From your perspective, what is something about the next 20 years that most people are underestimating? Next 20 years of Las Vegas.
Well, I hope we have water, but I think we do. I think we get Deadpool and everybody else will have to deal with it. But so I hope that gets solved. And it will. I think what's important to the city is to remember who the city is. And I think the city got away from itself a little bit with government surplus money, pandemic money, all the stimulus money, whatever. Raising prices, not going back down, charging for parking when your total spend coming to town is $200 and you're spending 80 of it on parking. Takes a lot of the fun away from coming to Vegas. We saw, a drop and our luxury sales are up and our gambling numbers are up. And that's just it's not a good long-term fix. I think you need to look at the foundation of that. Vegas was built by having something for everyone. Everybody can participate. And then if you are a high roller, if you want to go in the special room, great. If you want to pay for the big dinner or buy the big bottle of wine or whatever, cool. You can pay up to that. But don't turn your back on the people that want to come here on a value add too. So I think we really need to remember that. There's so much replication of everything everywhere. How do you make? We have one thing right now that is nobody else has, is the sphere. We need more of that. Keep leading the charge. Be different. Be the only place that's got that. Like, everybody's got casinos now. Everybody's got all whatever restaurants now. Everybody's got something. We need to be special. We need to be cutting edge. And we're doing a good job with the sports, and we're doing better projects with stuff like that, or product with stuff like that. But what are the next big things? And that's all the leaders that have their hand on the rudder. They need to be thinking of those things. It's really important. And then from an economy or local market standpoint, I hope we can not be talking about education and healthcare in 20 years. I hope we can be set the bar. Bottom mid-pack would be amazing. It would be a huge success story if we could be there, and not at the bottom of both those categories every time. I mean, there's 2.5 million people here. We deserve better. Figure it out. Everybody that is in that room figuring that stuff out. Make those changes, please.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this after a week long of ICSE and entertaining and talking, and now you're sitting down with me. So I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. I would love to hear from you about your takeaways from this episode. Make sure to leave us a comment or leave us a review. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can hear future episodes as they come out. My name is Hayim. Tune in next time.